Threesomes are absolutely awesome, and anyone who tells you otherwise is straight up lying to you.
But you know what else more than one wife will give you? It'll give you children faster. Because
people don't understand about anything that's not considered conventional. There's so many things working for so many different people.
I've only been practicing polygamy for 2 years.
Whose idea was it to start practicing this lifestyle?
Ding, 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 you got it, girl. It was definitely my idea.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to rethink love and commitment. 60 years ago was when we decided that men had to be monogamous too. Men were not monogamous for all of recorded human history. Men had concubines and whores. And 60 years ago, straight relationships began to become more egalitarian, and it was less of a property transaction, a marriage.
I just wish everyone would be a bit more like me and just stick to monogamy with occasional emotional cheating and a splash of gaslighting. How did we get so far? Damn.
Would you say that she helped us heal the hurts that we caused one another?
My social media presence is my bread and butter, okay? So you can't just use me for social media and not, don't just start I'm standing in my house.
Okay guys, so on today's episode we'll be discussing polygamy versus monogamy. In some contexts you may hear open relationship, you may hear non-monogamy? Non-monogamy, I can't pronounce it right now.
Do you speak any English?
That word, I'll put it up there innit? Polyamorous, polygamous relationships. Many people argue for them. People use it as a way to justify their behavior, saying it's inherent to human behavior and male behavior.
So yes, we are completely and utterly different. Yes, it's different if a woman cheats on a man. And if a man is at a complete top level of his life and ticks every single box, and if he decides to be loyal, which some do, and I can be loyal, and I have been loyal, but there's also times in my life where I think, fuck it, I don't want to be, and get a new girlfriend every single day of the week. I can do that, and I can decide to do that. If a woman decides to do the same, purely because her value is high enough to attract so many males, because she's beautiful, for example, it is completely different. It is impossible for a female to be promiscuous on a long enough period of time without devaluing herself.
However, we're not cats, we're not tigers, we don't go around just effing everything. Let's explore the realities of polygamy versus monogamy. But before we get into all of that, please do me one quick favor. Please like, comment, share and subscribe in order to get me off the trains and doing these routes. I'm gonna need you to comment, I'm gonna need you to subscribe, I'm gonna need you to engage. If this episode does well, I'm sure most of you won't subscribe. So if you see this, just subscribe just to help a brother out. Every week an episode will be coming out. I'm trying to give you the best possible thing out there. Let's go.
We've only been practicing polygamy for 2 years.
Whose idea was it to start practicing this lifestyle?
Ding, 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 you got it, girl. It was definitely my idea. We were married monogamously. Marriage was great, but I noticed something about my husband. Naeem thrives on love and support. The more that I give to him, the greater he becomes. So what more could he be if there's more than one doing the same thing for him?
So by now you may have seen the clip, the viral clip that inspired this video. It really brought about the idea of polyamorous and monogamous relationships. What are the benefits of monogamous relationships? What are the downsides to them? Are polyamorous relationships a thing in the future? How many times have you heard someone say they're pansexual, they're in polyamorous relationships? It's becoming more common. This trend is growing.
Open relationships are great. I'm polyamorous myself. I've got a boyfriend who I love very dearly, and then I've got someone else I'm seeing, and then I've actually got a date tonight. I think as long as you've got good communication, there's so much fun to be had.
It's like Christmas every day.
You can hear from these different celebrities as well, these different excerpts of what people feel, what people think about them.
Am I in a relationship?
Yeah.
I'm in multiple. What do you mean?
Are we here to grow old with just one person? Do you feel that?
I'm not sure.
And it seems to be a more creative, definitely a more fulfilling sexual relationship for people. And when you look at some of the research into it, unmet desires is something to be a symptom of monogamous relationships.
Was to notice that people would come and say, I love my partner, I'm having an affair. That sometimes people even in satisfying relationships also stray. And they don't stray because they are rejecting their relationship or because they are reacting to their relationship, but they often stray not because they want to find another person, but because they want to reconnect with a different version of themselves. it isn't so much that they want to leave the person that they are with, as much as sometimes they want to leave the person that they have themselves become.
However, it does come down to communication. In order for any sort of polyamorous or multi-partner relationship to work, you're going to need communication.
Then after that, what you should do is you should focus your attention first on your main chick, okay? And then the two of you focus your attention on this new girl. It's like, the frame is like she is this fun play toy for you and your main girl to enjoy together. Okay? Because that way, it's, again, we're trying to eliminate that jealousy, right? Because you don't want your main girl to feel like left out, to feel like a third wheel, to feel jealous. You want this to be a fun experience for her, so you get more of them. So you're engineering we're playing the long game here, right? We're going to make sure that this is a fun scenario. We have a great first impression of threesomes as a couple together, so that moving forward, we just keep doing this again and again and again because it's so much goddamn fun.
I had to put that little threesome thing there because, hey, I know that everyone was thinking it at some point. It wasn't just me, okay? We're all in the gutter together. Damn, this chair is sinking.
You're a clown.
However, some of these celebrity examples.
Exactly. Life is all about lessons and learning from them. What did you learn about yourself after your divorce?
I learned, excuse me, I learned that I am a person that will suffer for the well-being of another person. I've learned that about myself. I've learned that as much as I believe in love, as much as I believe in, the concept of monogamy, I don't know if it's for me, just because I'm a person that I tend to crave new energy.
Like more than one girlfriend? Something like that. Okay. And how do you balance that? Because that's a lot of balance unless they just keep it 100. To be honest.
Can be sometimes a poor reflection of the realities of polyamorous relationships. Celebrities often find themselves talking out their neck about things that they're not qualified to talk about, but they have the stage, the platform in order to convey such a large message, influencing not just young but vulnerable people to people in difficult situations. Their voices can project and impact many people, and sometimes it can be wrong. Again, not everyone's Chris Brown, not everyone is Neo, can get away with that. In the case of Chris Brown, he's Chris Brown, he's most women's crush. And that's important to understand, that a lot of the statistics into polyamorous relationships do discuss the aspect of finances and money in attracting multiple women, and it typically is reserved for people who are higher up the economic ladder. On top of that, people who tend to be more sexually, I think the word I'm looking for is liberated, open, typically higher up the sexual ladder, higher up the economic ladder as well. They have more autonomy, they have less constrictions by societal rules as well. So looking at celebrities for their desired roles and examples can be poor, and there are a number of people who have worked that out, but again, there's a number of people who are still victim to this and still follow them as if they are truth tellers and revealers of the truth, when sometimes it's just people just chatting out their arse.
Gotcha.
And it's important to add this, that there's so many things they miss out about having multiple partners.
Why you lying? Do all your niggas know what's going on with you? Do you tell them niggas you burn it, or do you lie to them like you did me? Or is you lying to them niggas how you did me? Or is you lying? Or did you lie to me? Did you lie? Did you tell them the truth? Or did you tell them the truth? When you gonna keep it gangster? Hey. And when you gonna keep it gangster? When you gonna keep it gangster? You bitch, you did. That's what you did. You lied to me for 6 months, and then you told me you had that shit. I hope you got AIDS. So if y'all don't know how HSV2 type 1 or 2 work, this how this shit go. You can't get rid of that shit. If you fuck somebody that got this shit while they having an outbreak, then you can contract it. But if you don't, you won't contract it. So for all my bitches that I put their dick on in the past or in the future, I don't got this shit and my paperwork coming up. Cause I could buck some paperwork. I ain't no faking ass nigga. If I get on her and tell y'all that, y'all know I ain't gonna tell y'all no lies on my daughter. If I had this shit, I'd wear it on my chest.
It doesn't necessarily mean because people in polyamorous relationship, pansexual people, they're more prone to STDs. There's no real statistic that says that, but you see the over-sexualization of not just music, Hollywood, entertainment, but in large part, society in general. And it does make you wonder, is it a healthy thing? And when you hear about all these celebrities that are allegedly having STIs, or STDs, whatever you call them, and hiding it from people and burning people and not caring, it is a bit worrying. It's important to say Sexy Red did deny those comments, but I found her denial a little bit weak in my opinion. And if it is true and it's alleged, it wouldn't be the first time we've heard that. I don't love celebrity gossip because so many times you have to say allegedly. But to me, when you see these rumors about other celebrities and their potential STIs, it's nothing to laugh at, but it's something that's missed out in the over-sexualization debate a lot of the time. And it does lead to a very important point that you see online is hurt people giving out advice.
I know at some point it was the whole thing like 20K a month.
I've never paid $20,000 a month in my life. It's what she's asking for.
That's what she was asking for. Got it.
Without realizing that there's no child on any level that needs $20,000 in Atlanta.
Right.
Truth be told is she makes about $160,000 a year herself. I do really well for myself. If you get into the actual needs of the child, our daughter will never be without. So if you're gonna leave me, and you and your lawyers are now trying to take my life with you. There's no alimony. We had a prenup. I'm confused as a mother. We had a baby.
If you want your house clean, hire me a maid.
Okay.
Realistically, yes.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
You want me to clean? I agree. I'll hire the maid and I'll marry the maid.
Bombs.
I'll marry the maid.
Oh, Davila, she's tied up. She's done lots of stuff.
That's the question.
You know, she's on the time of the month.
Of course.
And she's like, can you please help me with the dishes?
Yes, I will say to her, of course, Habibti, I'll do the dishes. By the way, you got the rent this week.
You're taking the myth.
Okay. Look.
Why do men go into marriages hating their wives?
Take a live photo of him on your phone. Like, you know, when you press it, it will like move. Yeah. So if you get a selfie of him and it's a live photo, you can use that to unlock his phone.
It's crazy. It's wild. Some of this advice I get, it's to trend, it's to be funny, it's tongue-in-cheek. But some of them is so harmful, so full of rage and pain.
And I realized that weaponizing your attention is the only thing you have. That's the only weapon men have in the sexual marketplace, your attention. Typically, men give attention to get sex, and girls give sex to keep getting attention.
So that's your primary kind of tool or
That's your tool.
resource.
That's your only resource. Because even you talk about money and all this shit, that's all garbage. The only resource you have is your attention. And the reason it's so difficult is because now women get so much attention for no reason, then why does your attention have value? So you have to put value on your attention. So then how do you put value on your attention? Everything that's valuable, like gold, is scarce. So I don't give my attention to any girl I'm not banging. I don't follow you on Instagram. I don't fucking like your pictures. Like, if we're not talking and literally actively going somewhere, you don't get my attention.
That I'm scared who is taking this advice on board. I'm terrified who believes in that. The lack of accountability, the lack of self-reflection in some of this advice is scary. Sometimes I hear these people go viral and I think, I'm out of here, man. What am I doing? Sensibility and being sensible doesn't make sense. But you have to have faith. That's just me speaking to myself. And also, in reality, hurt people do react very quickly. And just be a bit cognizant of the advice that you're taking in and this perspective that they're in and the perspective that you're potentially susceptible to being in. When I was at my most hurt, I was susceptible to a lot of hurt people's advice. I never fell down the Andrew Tate trap, but could have been there. And I think some of it, again, comes from a certain level of projection when you see some of these women talking about their dating experience and trying to finesse men.
No, it had nothing to do with Sims. That's what a man's job in society is. A man's job is to provide for women, for his woman, for, you know what I mean, whoever he wants to court, who he wants to fuck. It's his job to, and a woman's job is to make sure she's fucking the right.
It's contradicted though.
I think it comes from a place of being hurt and being burnt by men badly, and the same with the men who talk about essentially just dominating, owning women.
I pay attention. I sit there and I analyze and I come to my own conclusions. I don't believe the conclusion of the news, and I'm also not automatically anti what the news says. I analyze the chessboard and I decide which move is best. perspicacious. Females don't do that. Females grow up, listen to their parents, then they get in some friendship group, or they start watching TV, and they believe what society tells them to believe. And they either keep those beliefs, or they throw them away when they meet a man they like. Then they talk gobbledygook, doop, 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 and then they die. Females don't have independent thought. They don't come up with anything. They're just empty vessels, waiting for someone else to install the programming. Ching! And then they become conservative, liberal, feminist, whatever.
There's got to be a play on the humiliation aspect, the enjoyment of watching the gender that once hurt you be humiliated. There's got to be a play into that. And why do I bring that up in a polyamorous versus monogamous debate is that some of these people may be coming from a more hurt place. When you look at the statistics of divorce in celebrity couples anyway, because that's what people turn to when they mention polyamorous relationships, it's quite high. Again, I know some people may point to Will and Jada, but if you're pointing to Will and Jada for your example,
this is just bull. Cutting reimbursements to doctors and hospitals. You're wasting our time. That's what he's talking about. This is bull. Bill, I'm answering your question.
It's crazy out here. It is crazy. They're not the best. Let's be real. And that's not to say that polyamorous relationships don't have its own benefits. They have a ton of benefits. They can be potentially on particular cultures, very important for them culturally, religiously. They're good for creating offspring. They're also good for sharing abundance of finances, sharing the load of first-time pregnancies. I've seen in Islamic communities, men that had multiple wives, the other wives, when one wife was first-time pregnant, they would assist them. It was a community, it's a village. And that does bring up to one point that I noticed, that in the Western debate around polyamorous relationships, I'm not going to say it's degenerative, but it has a completely different context to how Eastern Islamic debates, even in Africa as well, how they view it. It's a sense of community more. Yes, there's a power play for a man to have multiple wives, but at the same time, the element of community is a big aspect of that. While in Western conversations about polyamorous relationship, swingers, it just seemed to be a lot more about overindulgence of love.
The thing is, I know that it's because I'm a Muslim as well. I mean, it's I can't argue. It's in the Quran, very black and white, you know. And there's so much I want to speak about this because, yeah, I mean, look, even if it's just mentioned, very, very black and white in our scripture, that's enough of a reason. Forget the biological benefits and the societal benefits, but
what about jealousy for yourself? Do you think you could?
Jealousy is good. If I was monogamously married to a man and he looked at the waitress, I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna feel something. But I'm monogamously married to him, so it's gonna.
Yeah, of course.
Jealousy is always gonna come, and that's another thing is that I could feel jealous. I could have these emotions, and jealousy isn't a bad thing. Envy is a bad thing. It's when you want something, and you don't want the other person to have it. Jealousy is something I don't have control over.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think people like anger's bad, jealousy is bad. No, it's a natural emotion. It's how you control it.
I do think sometimes when you look at some of how different people talk about this debate, you can see in relationships anyway, we treat each other like commodities. One is to provide sex. It seems to be more about what you can do for the person other than the connection it can create. And when you look into one of the benefits of monogamous relationships, it's about the connection, which is something that's lost in polygamous relationships. It's just difficult to have multiple connections with people. Again, a lot of debates around this subject will try to provide a sort of balance about it. There's a lack of research into polyamorous relationships. One of the articles I read about it indicated that families that came from polyamorous relationships may have performed worse in education. I was going to say education.
Yo, you a clown, man. Whatever. Come on.
Jesus Christ. Performed worse in education. However, it was too difficult to be conclusive, and if you look at most of the research into this, it's too difficult to be conclusive with it because it's so new. So it comes down to the individual experience, which is a big aspect in whether you want to do this or not, if I'm being real. But unfortunately, we do commodify each other too much, and there's a lack of conversation about communication and the importance of that.
People don't understand about anything that's not considered conventional. There's so many things working for so many different people. And most conventional, and I'm talking conventional white picket fence marriages that I know are miserable.
I do think another reason why this is becoming more and more of a growing trend is that in society we have this thing to just deconstruct everything. Literally everything. Gender deconstructed. What's a man? What's a woman? It can be interchanged.
It's one thing to say that gender is performed, and that's a little different from saying gender is performative. When we say gender is performed, we usually mean that we've taken on a role. We're acting in some way.
Government. Everything's questioned. Is Trump as good as Hillary? Is Trump as bad as Obama? What's the difference? We deconstruct and rationalize and create relationism in everything.
No matter how we've asked it, a vast majority of Americans see themselves as trustworthy and value being trustworthy. However, they believe most everybody else in society today does not care about being trustworthy and is not trustworthy.
We try to find correlations in everything, and that is postmodernism, which is the overall ideology of our times.
Like any movement, postmodernism had its critics, objecting to unnecessary ornamentation, an obsessive tendency to recycle the past to make something new, and often just plain silliness. The rise of mass media really helped postmodernism take off. The world was interconnected like never before. For many, postmodernism was liberating, giving creative expression a dynamic, often unsettling voice. Postmodernist cinema still confuses, surprises and delights us. Postmodernist performers still bemuse us. And we just can't seem to get enough of quirky postmodern art. Politically, philosophically, creatively, the postmodern movement has proven itself a force to be reckoned with. Like a giant social cattle prod compelling society to question why things are the way they are. And why they aren't.
I don't want to bore you with that too much, modernism versus postmodernism, but think of postmodernism as a critique of everything. And what has that led to is over-critique of things and a lack of universal truths. We no longer believe anything is totally and completely true, while in the 19th century we did. Welcome to the new century, I guess.
Think about the old days. They the old days.
Hence why we challenge every ideology, every institution, like marriage. What is the point of monogamous relationships? Why not have polygamous relationships? But I find some of these debates to be a little bit superficial and a bit flawed in its logic of looking at everything without its proper context. A problem with postmodernism. If you find it interesting, there's links in the description for it. And again, many people who talk about open relationships don't talk about the psychological factors to it. There's an article that I read for this that indicated that swingers typically came from a more damaged and deprived background than their other counterparts. However, again, sample size, troubles with the sample size. Also looking at some research, you could see that jealousy, envy, economic stability and pressures were another symptom of polyamorous relationship. Again, they're too difficult to fully analyze because most of them are not in the Western context. I do think Western society would struggle with polyamorous relationships with the amount of pressure, financial and social pressures on us at the moment. So how do you balance multiple girlfriends? God damn, what happened to good old just flirting, pretending like you like her and then ghosting her? Not that I've ever done that.
You act like a real sucker, bro.
Now you using this alleged
You act
shit.
like a real sucker about your business.
I don't want to tear anyone down or be too downtrodden on polyamorous relationships. They do seem to be genuine benefits. I just think sometimes the negatives are not spoken about enough. The amount of communication that is needed in both maybe polyamorous and monogamous relationships in order for them to work. If you look at the major reason why monogamous relationships divorce, and they do have the highest divorce rate.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. 53% of marriages in this country end in divorce, and 78% of those divorces are initiated by, guess who?
Cheating.
Women. Oh, they're initiated by females. So it is one of these situations where something is broken in it. And what I've talked about before is it's not the cheating, it's the lying. The lying is the problem, right? And the first thing you guys said is, this is who I am, and you will accept it. And then that's what made it work for the two of you.
Right.
Well, and I think that was probably one of our keys.
Yeah.
And it goes past, like, I mean, even just little things like, this is how I am in an argument. Like, I'm not a person that closes up their emotions. I want to talk about it to death. She wasn't like that, but she understood I was. So we could come to a common ground very early on and make it work.
So that was an issue. So do you not like confrontation?
I wasn't taught to communicate very well.
Okay.
My parents are Polish. I mean, I adore my parents, but I think the European culture in general, we just don't discuss things.
Yeah.
Like if you feel a certain way, okay, you feel it. Like you don't go home to your parents and you say, this happened at school today. This is what I feel. This is how I was made felt. None of that. Like none of that. So to me, if I was anxious, it was like, you'll be fine. If I was heartbroken, it's okay.
But you never kept score, right? It's one of those. So that's the main issue that I see a lot of times with couples, where you'll have people that are like, there's an issue right now. I'm not going to bring it up. But a month later, when we get into an argument, I'm going to bring it. You guys never do that.
No, you can't brush it under the rug.
Comes down to, in my opinion, lack of communication. When you start lying, keeping secrets, hiding maybe inner sexual desires you want to have, you end up in situations where resentment builds on both sides. And hence why some people genuinely believe that it's better to be in more open relationships. If your communication is poor, you'll just end up hurting each other more and more anyway. And like that video about the threesome said, you've got to be attentive to your partner's needs. You've got to be attentive to the people's needs that you're looking after, whether that's in a relationship or whether that's in business. You have to be completely and utterly aware. And if you're not in the quest for your partner's needs, I think the problem sometimes we have, and the reason why there's so much pain and hurt when we're talking about relationship, is that love requires sacrifice, a great deal of sacrifice in order to work. And typically that sacrifice, when gone unmet, can lead to a lot of resentment. But that can happen in polyamorous relationships too. It's not spoken about that the human part of communication is left. Maybe because when you're online, things are cut up in a way, and I've been guilty of this, of removing the true context, but it's missed out, and we don't want to be Will and Jada. No one wants that. Whether that's monogamous or polygamous, I'm looking at all of you out there. Don't be Will and Jada. I'm being dead serious. I won't rate that.
Would you say that she helped us heal the hurts that we caused one another?
My social media presence is my bread and butter, okay? So you can't just use me for social media and not, don't just start I'm standing in my house.
To close out the show, I just want to say that in order for you to work in any sort of relation, whether that's pan, whether that's polyamorous, whether that's gay or straight, you've got to be very communicative of each other. There was another study into gay men couples and how they work in open relationships, and the truth of the matter is they seem to be unhappy, but that might be again down to trauma and the lack of communication. Some studies into LGBTQ relationships found that a lot of trauma bonding did go on, and trauma bonding can lead to a lack of communication. And if you've noticed, I've said the word communication a lot, because in order for relationships to work, communication needs to happen. There's an element of self-sacrifice in every relationship on both sides, hopefully, and a level of understanding that needs to be brought to the table. Whether you go for polyamorous or monogamous, I'm a monogamous guy.
So do you ever see yourself with just one woman?
I'm with one woman right now.
Yeah. You have to communicate, you have to be honest. Celebrities, they are not your example. They're goofballs, half of them, and lying, the majority of them. Some are cool though, but in general, there's no statistical data to really indicate which is better. It comes down to one thing, and that's your individual experiences and making it work with your partner, sticking it out through the good, enjoying the bad, and when the bad's happening, knowing that doesn't last forever, and when the good happens, there's bad, so cherish it more. And that's the best advice I can give, because I'm single and I'm not the right person to be giving any sort of advice. My pizza is ready, but take this: communication, whether you're polyamorous or monogamous, is vital. Understanding is vital. And I don't think online is the best place to get your advice, if I'm being quite honest. Coming from a guy who just gave you advice online, I'm a hypocrite. So overrated. See you next week.
But you know what else more than one wife will give you? It'll give you children faster. Because even the most atheistic or the most Christian men I know, they might have 2 or 3 babies, and it'll take 5 to 6 years by the time the woman gets pregnant, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And they said, I'd love to have more kids. My wife's finished now, et cetera. look, if you're a man of means financially, let's say me, for example, I'm financially very well off. I'd love to have 10 children. I can't get that from one woman. Maybe I could.